Good afternoon. Welcome to the marketplace. Coming up in this bulletin, government moves to amend Cocoa Board Act to force the regulator to focus on core mandate as Roads Ministry will now take over construction of cocoa roads in the country. Also coming up, transport fares to go up by 20% from this Friday over government's failure to ensure corresponding adjustment in spare parts and goods and services. Majority of Monetary Policy Committee members of Bank of Ghana cite potential risks to inflation outlook as reasons for 3% rate cut. We have details of this and more coming up in this bulletin. My name is Winston Taki. Now let's bring you updates on how the Ghana cedi is performing against major global currencies. Welcome back to the marketplace. My name is Winston Kakina. Let's go to the details. Government is currently working to amend the act that regulates the activities of Cocoa Board. This is part of several measures the government has announced to turn around the regulator. So let's give you some breakdown, especially when it comes to the plans that the government has instituted right now on the screens. Now, with the proposed restructuring of Cocoa Board has been a key development for quite some time now, and these are the key issues that Cocoa Board is likely to experience in the coming years. The Finance Ministry now takes over supervision of Cocoa Board from the Ministry of Agriculture. There you see it. And also there's going to be an establishment of a desk at the Finance Ministry to solely focus on the restructuring of Cocoa Board as an institution. There is also going to be a change at Cocoa Board in the Cocoa Board Act to focus on core mandate, which has been one of the key issues that were discussed yesterday when the minister himself was adjourned to discuss on key development in the sector. Currently, the Roads Ministry is also to take over the construction of all cocoa roads, which has been a key development on linking the cocoa harvesting regions, basically bringing the cocoa seeds to the warehouses have become a key conversation for quite some time now. There's going to be, Cocoa Board will now be stopped from engaging in quasi-fiscal activities which will not go anywhere to affect their books eventually. So these are some of the key developments that will go in line to ensure the restructuring of Cocoa Board to make it a quite viable entity, considering the challenges the agency has been facing for quite some time now, from highly indebtedness and now the need to restructure the outlook basically. Other development, 4 out of 6 members of the Monetary Policy Committee have cited potential risks to inflation outlook as a major reason for cutting policy rate by 3% to 35%. So what were the other reasons for this majority decision by the members? My colleague George Wiafe has joined me here to bring more insight into this minute that was released this morning. Now, George, what are some of the reasons that has led to basically the 3% from your perspective?
So, Winston, before I even do that, let me also help you to appreciate something while we're even talking about how the members voted right now. Now, you realize that the new governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Johnson Isiema, has been pushing this whole transparency module or two when it comes to the Bank of Ghana's operations. So now, anytime the Monetary Policy Committee of the Bank of Ghana gets to meet, we get a fair idea about what went into their voting decision or minutes of the meeting. And this is basically part of plan to let the public appreciate what goes into deciding the policy rate from the Bank of Ghana perspective, they believe that if people come to appreciate what goes into voting on or setting the new policy rate, they'll really come to understand what goes into the policy revisions, and therefore they can carry the public along with them.
Great.
Now, this committee is made up of some 7 members, but from the minutes that we saw, we realized that there are 6 members. They're chaired by the governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Ernest. Dr. Johnson is here, actually, then the 2 deputy governors as well, and then some other directors, and also some 2 external members as well. So basically, just to give you some understanding, if you go through the minutes that was released by the Bank of Ghana, you realize that risk to inflation was a major concern for these directors or for these members of the Monetary Policy Committee. Their concern was that they thought that we have to tread cautiously by not doing a huge cut. Don't forget, going into this meeting, there were a lot of the public, businesses, and even some persons within government, they were pushing that we should look for a very significant cut in the policy rate. Now, so let's look at some of the members. And member 1,
yes,
unlike the Federal Reserve, where we know that, for instance, if Winston Tuck is a member of the Federal Reserve in the US, you know, this was your views. They don't want to disclose the names now. So we have member 1. Member 1 voted for the policy rate to be cut by 350 basis points, or
that's quite optimistic.
3.5% to about 24.5%. Now, what was, if you go through that long statement that they had released, the key reason for that member 1, if it was Winston Tucky, was that that member was worried about the fact that inflation that is still higher than the medium-term target of 8 + 2 or -2, and also amid this global uncertainty. So that member 1, whoever it was, think that let's cut the policy rate by 3.5% to 24.5%. Again, when you look at member 2, whoever that person was looking at a 300 basis point cut in the policy rate to 25%. And the key reason was more the upside risk to inflation as well when you look at all these things. So if you go through, even though we've been able to highlight these 2 members, you realize that about 4 of the members that voted for the rate to be cut by 300 basis points, their key concern was that let's tread cautiously. But also, they were quick to add that if they see the 3rd quarter or the 4th quarter numbers improve, they will quickly come back and cut the policy rate further.
So with the 4 that you mentioned, the 2 dissent, which reason did they give?
Even though they didn't go along with the majority, if you read through their argument, you realize that they were more of a moderate cut because they were so worried about whatever that they do and the impact on the Ghana cedi and the inflation. So if you read through all the argument, one thing that ran through was their fears about inflation going forward, and whether if they should lose guard right now, open the floodgate too much, inflation could be going up. We've seen that transport fares are going to go up on Friday by some 20%. What could be the implication on inflation for the month of August, not July, because July one will come out possibly tomorrow. And there are strong indications that it will go down. So you see what member 3 also argued, that member 3, 250 basis points to 25.5% due to fear of increase in inflation. The key reason here, the risk baseline projection remains high. And if you look at all these things, all about price behavior.
What is your outlook based on some of
If you look at the outlook concerns as well, the majority of the members, however, they are sure that if things should lower, but if you also engage a lot of industry persons, you realize that there are some who are worried that from August, September, if we don't see price behavior looking good, we could see inflation go up marginally, and therefore it could be rare for them to observe and then act, Winston.
Thank you very much, George, for giving us this insightful analysis. We'll surely be breaking it down in subsequent bulletins. I appreciate that, George. Now, let's get on to Zoom and speak to finance lecturer at the University of Ghana Business School, Professor Lord Mensah, on the Cocoa Board and the MPC issues. Welcome to the marketplace, Prof. What do you make of this proposed restructuring of Cocoa Board?
Yeah, I think it's in order. I mean, if you have an agency that is quasi, government-oriented and is in distress, restructuring is very, very important, especially when it comes to the governance, structure. And if you take, Cocoa Board, it is a state agency that we're not supposed to take it for granted. Because, gone were the days when, you hear of Cocoa Board, dollar inflows coming in. You see some stability in the exchange rate. When, Cocoa Board is out of money, then the exchange rate starts misbehaving. So that tells you that if we get things right at Cocoa Board, obviously it should be able to, stabilize our, exchange rate further, more to the extent of what the gold board is doing. So from where I sit, what the finance minister is doing in terms of the restructuring is the right thing to do. I mean, because every management, if you have a cash cow, that is helping you to make your purse looks good. Obviously, it should be an agency that you must keep your eyes on. And so I'm not surprised the finance minister has taken over, the board chairmanship of the Cocoa Board, and as a result of that, trying to put up some restructuring to ensure that they don't engage in any excess, business activities that will cost them or that will bring them into trouble, as Cocoa Board used to be.
You said you are not surprised, but there's this perceived risk of possible political interference in this restructuring process. What do you make of that?
Well, it is a state-owned agency, and of course, you expect that the top will be politically aligned, of course, to champion the policies of the government. So it's not something that we should be worried about, because if the government has an agenda to stabilize the economy, and it turns up that the same government is having its people at the helms of affairs of Cocoa Board, as far as the board formation is concerned. From why it is not a bad thing to do. You can't run, Cocoa Board as purely business, and that is what we've been doing in the past that has caused us into trouble. And if you look at the restructuring, there's a fifth item that indicates that Cocoa Board should be prevented from, going into quasi-fiscal activities, and these are things that they've been doing in the past. Especially, I was not happy with how Cocoa Board was borrowing on the local market. Going for anything at all, it's supposed to be an entity that is supposed to bring in, dollars. And once they complement, their balance sheet with, borrowing from the local market, whatever proceeds or profit, they have to share it between the local market and then the foreign market. And when it happens like that, the control that we're supposed to have as far as, Cocoa Board's impact on exchange rate is reduced. So from where I sit, I think it's the right thing to do. It is, restructuring that is welcome as far as Cocoa Board is concerned.
Prof, let's move on to talk about the NPC issues. Are you surprised about the fears expressed by the members of the committee about inflation and how they voted on this meeting, especially when it came to making the final decision of adjustment in NPC?
Again, I'm not surprised. If you look at, the price dynamics of commodities on our market, you may have to ask yourself, what is causing this, drive down in prices? One, I can attribute it to the stability in the exchange rate. Two, I can attribute it to, the fuel price on the global market. And so clearly, these are things that, as a country, we don't have control over. So for measures that can stabilize, the exchange rate further, in-house or in-country, that we have control over, we are early years yet. If you look at, the fiscal year and, monies that are supposed to go into agriculture, monies that are supposed to go into, manufacturing, monies that are supposed to go into things that we have control over in the country, they've not started, giving us that dividend yet. So the kind of stability that we are enjoying are being controlled by things that we don't have control over. So if they allay those fears, I'm not surprised, to see that, yes, indeed, they all, about 4 members out of the board are coming out to say that we should be careful with inflation.
Just on the inflation that they are cautioning about, transport fare operators have announced fares that it's likely to go up by 20 pesos from Friday. In as much as the 20% on Friday, how cautious should we be in dealing with it, basically due to how risky it is being part of the inflation basket, possibly that will be announced next month?
Yeah, of course. That is why the membership were careful in the percentage cut, because they all gave a signal that, look, we're not out of the woods yet when it comes to inflation. And like I indicated earlier, if we pump more money into the real sector of our economy, into things that we have control, that is when we can have a true grasp of what controlling inflation. But for now, what is happening is as a result of stability in fuel price and all those things that we've been enjoying that we don't have control over. But once we're able to reorient the economy, the point where the dictate of prices on our market is determined by things that we can control, then in that regard, we should be able to say that yes, we can drastically reduce the monetary policy rate as it's supposed to be.
Thank you very much, Professor Lord Mensah. He's a finance lecturer at the University of Ghana Business School. Now, still staying on the transport sector, the Ghana Transport Coordinating Council has announced a 20% increase in transport fares from this Friday. The council, in a statement, maintained this is due to government's failure to ensure there is corresponding reduction in spare parts and other goods and services. Let's get onto the line and speak to the General Secretary of the council, who joins us now. Welcome to the marketplace. Now, do I get from you that you have explored all avenues for redress before going ahead with this planned increase come Friday?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Yes. You see, as a practice, whenever there's a government policy that affects the operations, what we normally do is that there's a stakeholder engagement with the ministry or agency involved for us to come to terms with exactly what is going to happen. Unfortunately, on this issue of this 1 cedi levy, it just came to the fore, it just came to the public, and some eyebrows were raised and they withdrew it for some time. I don't know if it was because of our concerns we initially raised. They withdrew it and came back on the system without further engagement with us. So we realized if they had listened to us, maybe we have told them, we'll let them know how it's going to affect our operations and all that. So that is it. I think that's a major contributing factor that had led to the increase in transport fares.
Want to understand from you, first of all, did your members really drop transport fares by 15% on May 21st, 2025?
Yes, to a very large extent, yes. But you see, our system as it stands now is quite. Let me be frank with you. It's quite difficult to make sure that you have generality of the operators adhering to the exact reduction or the exact increase. What we know for sure is that those who operate from a centralized terminal, they are easy to control and you can get those things done. But those who on the roadside who are doing this thing, it means it's quite difficult to ensure, but at least quite a number of them also did the reduction. And I know for sure that we ask for compliance level, we've had to grade it. We had over 80% compliance level, which is good.
When you say things, what do you mean?
I'm talking about those the floating drivers, those who don't necessarily load from terminals, those who start load on the roadside. It starts from Circle by the time you realize in Kumasi. Those are the people I'm referring. Yeah.
Okay. What will it take to halt this action before this Friday?
Halt what action?
Halt your increment that you projected to make manifest hopefully on Friday.
I don't get it. What will it halt our projection?
Yes. What will government have to do to ensure you don't increase the prices? Or transport fares?
No, as I speak with you now, well, we have set in motion systems that would, trigger those things, the increment. If the government comes back and he wants to maybe do some reversal and or one of whatever is policy, we don't mind. We can come back and speak to our people and see how best we can bring them back to this.
Thank you, Manuel Yeboah, for this insight. We'll certainly be following up on this conversation before Friday 8th, where the transport fare has been projected to go up by 20%. And now moving on, the board of the Ghana Interbank Payment and Settlement Systems Limited, a subsidiary of the Bank of Ghana, has appointed Mrs. Clara B. Arthur as Chief Executive Officer of the Ghana Interbank Payment and Settlement Systems Limited, effective 1st September 2025. Mrs. Arthur brings a wealth of experience in financial services and technology industry with a proven track record of leadership, innovation, and driving growth. Prior to joining GIPS, she held various leadership positions at Fidelity Bank Ghana, eProcess International SA, Ecobank Group, and private consultancy roles, where she led various teams to provide technical guidance and expert advice in IT solutions and payment solutions. Mrs. Arthur takes over from Mr. Achi Hesse. We have more business update for you right after this break. Stay tuned. Back to the marketplace. Now, South Africa's biggest grocery retailer, Shoprite Holdings, is selling its operations in Ghana and Malawi, marking another step towards consolidation of its activities across Africa to focus more on its home market. We have this story on myjoyonline.com. You can read the full details there and you get more insights on this key development. Now that they're exiting Africa, what is their new focus? And on the same My Joy Online, you'll find more insightful stories where government increases cocoa price, and this and all available on My Joy Online for a slot business. That's all for the marketplace today. My name is Winston Taki. Thanks for watching. Have a good business day. Bye-bye.